Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This lecture is the second lecture about contracts. Last time we had the conditions of the contract, in which we have to look at the ways to establish contract. And mainly we have three main conditions, three elements to establish a contract. Number one was offer and acceptance. Number two is consideration, which is the value. And number three is intention to be legally bound. Sometimes we have an additional condition which is called formalities. This we'll look at it later on. But for now, at least for now, we have to start with the intention. Behind any action you make, behind any transaction you do, you have intention. If you do not have the intention, it means that you have done no activity. Your act will be worthless, will not constitute any activity, any legal activity. In a contract, when you're going to make on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, anytime you make it, you have to have intention, which is something comes from you, from your inside, inner, from your mind, thinking about committing yourself. How can I commit myself? I can do that by making an offer, and someone else would accept it, and I would have the intention in my mind to commit myself, in which I can have obligations to enforce what I'm going to do exactly. I have to deliver the money or the goods, or to do something else, to deliver service. It's a commitment, comes out of the offer and acceptance and the intention. We have to assume all the time in all contracts that we have intentions, unless one of the parties prove the opposite, that he or she had no intention. I can tell that all of you attend the class today, you attend, listen to me, looking at me, and you have the intention to come to attend the class. No one has forced you. Maybe that some of you has been forced to come to the class. You didn't like it, but at least I can say that most of you attend the class because you have intention, even if you might not like it, because it's a little bit difficult, but you have the intention. Not everything we do in our life has intention. Sometimes people do things, but they don't have any intention to do that. Just you feel that you have to do something. It's a routine. It's a basic routine of life. Now, to commit yourself legally, it's not a routine. It's something has to be done in accordance to the legal system, which is condition. Number two, intention. Parties must intend to be legally bound. يلتزموا, bind myself, commit myself. On the other side, we find that sometimes we find some domestic commitments, but these commitments do not come from the contract. There is no intention, there is no legal contract. I commit myself to help my family at home. I commit myself to help some of my friends. But this commitment does not come from a legal contract. It comes from the ethics, humanity, from my own personal side. It's not a commitment has to be enforced by law. No, it's not. We have an example which happened in the UK a long time ago, and it's a legal precedent. And students who attended the first week with me here, you can remember that I explained the meaning of common law. And I said common law is based on legal precedents. The law is made by the judge. Cases. صواب قضائية case. This is one of the cases. Balfour versus Balfour. Balfour against Balfour. A man and his wife. He used to give his wife money on a monthly basis, £30 a month, as maintenance, life maintenance. He used to live away, abroad. He was not in the UK. She was staying in the UK. But the man, the husband, was abroad, was doing something, was working. And on a monthly basis, he used to send his wife £30. After a while, they separated, divorced, they left each other. Now the man stopped paying his wife because she's not his wife anymore. He's not committed to her anymore. At the beginning he used to pay her it's a family commitment. Now, being here, he did not sign a contract with her in the past. He did not have the intention to legally keep that situation for the long term. Now, his ex-wife went to court and she complained, asking for the same payment to be continuous. Can you shut the door? She asked for the payments to be continuous all the time. The man refused. He said, well, I cannot pay her because I did not commit myself. I have no intention. It's not a contract. I have an offer to give her £30 a month. She accepted the offer. I did not have intention in my mind to commit myself legally in a contract. There was no contract. Now, even this case went to the Court of Appeal. محكمة الاستئناف, which is one of the highest. It might be the highest court sometimes. Now, the Court of Appeal made a decision saying this contract is unenforceable. We have unenforceability. It's not enforceable because there was no intention. There was no intention. Even though both of them have accepted and they did their best all the time, some of them paying and the second one is receiving the money, but there was no intention to commit themselves legally. Was that fine? So this is what's called intention. I guess it's clear. It's not difficult to be able to understand how we can have intentions. It's a free will. It's not something by force. We have some cases in which we will look at later on, in which we can set aside the contract, we can cancel the contract, we can obliterate it. If that contract has no intention, it will not be a contract. But we'll leave it until that time. But for now, we can see that intention is a basic element. Something has to exist all the time. But who can prove it? Who can? If I say that I signed a contract with you and I had no intention, I have no intention because he used the force against me, then I have to prove it. I mean, once we sign the contract, once we make a contract, we have offer and acceptance, then I can assume that both of them, A and B, have free will, have intention, unless one of them can prove the opposite, that he did not or she did not have the intention. There's something in addition which is called abstraction principle. This is in Germany and other countries, in which there is a separation between the commitment. We have said before, we have obligation and we have title. See that? Obligation and title. As I said before, that we have A and B, commitment and commitment, obligation and obligation, responsibility. I have to do something because I signed the contract. I have to do something. That might be paying the money, maybe painting a room, maybe delivering the goods, maybe doing something similar to this. But the second party will do something else, which is a commitment. Now, in some cases we have two types of obligations. Number one is the physical, personal obligation. Personal obligation. Doing something, and most likely transferring, delivering items. And the second obligation, which is the title. Title اللي هو سند الملكية. Title, ownership of the property. Some items, like small, cheap items, ownership can be by holding it, by keeping it. Like if I have, this is my mobile phone, as you can see it, you can tell this is my mobile phone because I keep it, I hold it, it's with me. Unless someone else claim it. If someone else claim the mobile phone, he or she has to prove that. Otherwise, it's mine. But if it's something expensive, something valuable, like a house, flat, land, car, these and others, buying a company, these have to be in a special form. We will look at this later on. These have to be in a specific format according to the law. Okay, if those will be in a specific format, then we have to follow the procedures. Not only acceptance and offer, not only intention with that, and not the value of the consideration. We have to add a new condition, which is special format. في شكل محدد, special format. By this, we have to transfer the title. Title will be transferred, in this case, by making the contract most likely in a specific form. ايش عندك انت؟ ايش عندك؟ انت ايش عندك؟ No, it's not Hidwin. No, it's commercial law. No, it sounds like, but it's not. Okay, now we separate between the two obligations. We have an example to make it easy for students to understand this. We have an example. The example says that somebody, a man was drunk, and someone else, B, had made use of that situation. You see, somebody who's drunk, he cannot use his mind. Someone cannot think, cannot make intention, cannot have the intention actually. This one can be easily abused by some other people. Now someone else abused that person using this situation, knowing already that this man has no intention. So what he did, he sold him his car. So A was drunk, but he has money, and he bought a car. The seller of the car, B, was the seller, let's say. Oh, it's the opposite. Okay. A was the owner of the car, and B was the drunk man. B has the money and A has the car. Now, at the time of making the contract, when they made it, B was drunk, so he's got no intention. He cannot think. He cannot make a decision. But he made it. The second party, A, assuming that it was fine, I can use this situation, and then he made him sign the contract of buying the car. Then later on, B has waken up, look at the situation, found himself, signed a contract to buy a car. Now, when you sign the contract in a special form, most likely, it's not most likely, this is the situation will be the property, the title will be transferred from one to the other. The title or الملكية, the title is transferred from A to B. A to B. But then A did not pay the money yet. So B did not pay the money yet. He was drunk, he did not pay the money. No one can force him to pay the money. No one can now we separate between my obligation. If I was a drunk in that case, my obligation is to pay the money. This is my obligation. I would have to pay the money. And the title was transferred to me. But the car is still with the man, with the owner. But he cannot force me to pay anything. Because this commitment, you see, I have a commitment if it's perfect, the contract. But I did not have intention in this case. We separate between my commitment is to pay the money, but then the title itself here, he can take it back. See, we separate. So I have received the title of something, and al-Malik, I'm the owner of that item. This title has to be transferred back to the owner. It can be sometimes the opposite. It can be sometimes the owner of the car, he is the drunk one, and someone else made use of that situation, buying his car, paying only half of the price, paying only less than 50% of the price of that car. In this case, then you can take your car back. You can end this contract. You can separate between the title and the commitment. I made a commitment. I committed myself. I had an obligation, and by obligation here, my personal obligation, I gave my car to someone at the time when I could not make a decision, when I had no intention. Then personal obligation, delivery. But the title is still my title. I can take my car back. So we separate between, and that new buyer cannot force me. He will not be able to force me to do anything. Okay?
I have a question. It's not really easy to prove
Yes, this is a different case. Most students asking the same questions all the time, that how is it going to be? Would it be easy to prove? Can we have an evidence? But this is not commercial law. This is a procedural law. Now, we assume in all cases that we have all the evidence needed for this case, and we assume that both parties, A and B, every one of them has submitted the full evidence, and the judge had to make a decision only in commercial activities, in commercial aspects, not on the procedural, that because they have done it already. I know it's difficult. It's not easy. How can I know if someone had the intention or not? We can know by looking at the whole situation, indications. We can know. I can understand, like, if someone come to this class to study and to pass and to be successful, I have many indications. I know some students coming to university to study, but they have to do it. They have no options. But if they find another option, they will not come here. You can tell from the indications. If someone going to buy a car, and all he's got only £1,000, and a nice car costs £10,000. Now he's got no option but to buy this car, which is cost 1,000. But if that person has lots of money, he will buy what he wants. I'm talking about indications. I can tell. Like, for example, how can I tell if someone is a merchant or not? Merchant. By looking at that person. Like, I have a laptop I would like to sell. This is an indication that is a civilian act. It's my personal. But if I have 20 PCs or 20 mobile phones, and I went to the market to sell the 20 mobile phones, do you think this is civil or commercial activity? Commercial, because of the amount. We look at the amount. How many items? This is kind of indications. We look at the amount, we look at the type. We look at the type, like somebody buying a ship. Why should I need a ship? What's for? As a teacher at university, it might be because I wanted to use it for cargo. It's not like using it as personal, at personal level. Looking at the type of the goods and the items, looking at the quality and the quantity as well, we can know if this is commercial or civil. So we can know that the intention behind this. It's not difficult to know it. In addition, there's one point left here in this slide. If we cannot invalidate يعني ينهي العقد, the contract, if we cannot invalidate it because we have no intention, then we can look at something else. Like, someone bought my car at the time when I was drunk. He bought it for less than the amount of the money. Then I could not approve to the court that I had no intention. Then I can sue that person for something else, which is called unjust enrichment law. في قانون unjust enrichment law. يعني الاقتناء بغير سبب مشروع. He has my car for £5,000 and it's cost £20,000. It's not a logical contract. It's not something somebody can believe. If I can prove that we have something called unjust enrichment law, someone get money at the expense, or someone get benefit at the expense of someone else, then I can use this law to claim back my right. Or I can get the difference. If the car costs 10,000 and I bought it for £2,000 or £3,000, then I can get the difference between the amount of money. I think this is not difficult. Did you understand it? Good. Let's move to the next slide. Now we've finished with all conditions. Number 1 is offer and acceptance. Number 2 is consideration, the value. And 3 is intention. Now we have to move to additional condition, which can be sometimes in some cases. Like, if you would like to buy a house in any place, in most countries, if not all, if you want to buy a house, you have to buy it and you have to sign a contract. I cannot get the title of the house, of the flat, unless I have a special form. We have, as you can see, that special format. Most cases, in most situations, you don't have to write it. Or what you can do in most situations is just to have exchange of promises. I promise to sell you something, and you promise to buy it. And I make an offer, and you make an acceptance. These are, in most cases, can be oral, can be by conduct, by impression. But in some cases here, we have them in writing, as we will see in the next slide. Let's have a look first of all at the difference between oral or verbal and non-verbal contracts. Because if it's a verbal or non-verbal are the same. We have the same case. We have the same obligations. Verbal contracts, can you read it?
Any contract that uses words spoken or written.
Any contracts using words, sentences, letters. These contracts, we call them verbal. It can be oral, it can be in writing. It doesn't make any difference. As long as we use not conduct, we use words, then this is a verbal verb from verb, فعل, verbal contracts. And so it means all oral contracts and written contracts. The second type is non-verbal.
Non-oral contract, a contract implied by the act of the parties, which can be either implied in fact or implied in law. Most justifications have rules which may render various oral contract unenforceable, especially regarding contracting involving a large amount of money or real estate.
Okay, now non-verbal, non-oral, we do not use verbs, no words. We use conduct. We call it implied contracts. And we had that last time. We had the two types. One of them is called implied in fact, and the second is implied in law. So I want someone to explain to me again what we had last time. Implied in fact and implied in law. I think implied in fact is easy. Just to define it. How can we define it? Implied in fact contract. How can it be defined? Anyone? We said we can understand from the situation, I can understand from the circumstances that there is a contract even though it was not expressed in words. Like going to a coffee shop, having a coffee and a cake, piece of cake, eating and drinking. Then once you finish, you pay the money and you leave. That's implied in fact contract. The second type, which is implied in law, how do you know? Do you know it? It's a quasi contract, which means the court or the judge would impose an obligation on one of the parties to avoid injustice. And we did explain this in details, and we have the example about the sprinkler system and the plumber. Now, most jurisdictions, as you can see, in most jurisdictions, اللي هو السلطات القانونية في كل بلدان العالم يعني, most jurisdictions have rules, principles that may render valid oral contract unenforceable. Look at this again and again. We'll see what we're going to do in the next slide. And what does it mean? In most jurisdictions, in most countries, they have here valid oral contract. It's a contract, but it's oral. It's unenforceable. We had an offer and acceptance, intention and consideration, but this contract was not in a special form. The contract will be okay, fine, but we cannot enforce it. We cannot enforce it. Especially here, if it's here regarding contracts involving large amount of money or real estate. If it's too expensive, something expensive, or real estate, عقارات, شقة, flat or house or land, in these cases, if I make a contract saying I have a house I would like to sell, and for £50,000, and somebody says, well, I'm going to buy it. So we have offer and acceptance, intention, and even if I pay the money, or if he pays the money, and I refuse, no one can force me. Unless we have this contract in a special form, in writing. So such contracts have to be written in a specific form. For example, in the United States, it says any contract over $500 has to be in writing. In Palestine here, in civil law, not in commercial law, in civil law, says any contract you make over 200 dinars, it has to be in writing. If it's less than 200 dinars, you can bring a witness, it's fine. But if it's over 200 dinars, and if you would like to claim it, you cannot go to court. No one would listen to you unless you have an evidence in writing, a document. Because document would make it easy for anyone to believe you. And if you look in Islam, the longest verse in the Quran, the longest verse, the Ayat al-Din, talks about debts. You have to write everything. You have to document. Everything has to be documented. And the purpose, why is that? Purpose. Why should we write down contract? Like some of them can be written down in a special form. And some of them you can make the form, but you have to write it down in a piece of paper, documentation. Why is this?
Mainly to avoid injustice, because some people might deceive the law by changing the words or whatever conditions that might be there in the documented contract.
Well, we can avoid injustice, of course, but we have to stop, we have to prevent any false allegations. Any false allegation. If someone claims something, you have to prove it. When you talk about a house or a land or something expensive, or buying a company, buying a business, you have to prove everything you say. I have to bring the evidence. Otherwise, people will keep claiming things, saying, well, this is my car, this is my house. If I would like to claim anything, I would have to prove that it belongs to me. How can I prove it? By documents. And we have seen many cases. When you go to court and you look how many cases we have, many thousands of cases about things disputed between parties. Everyone says that this belongs to me, this item, this container, this shipment, it belongs to me, it's mine. We have many disputes. As long as we can have the documents to prove the ownership of one of them, he or she would take. The judge will look at that situation, will take a decision based on evidence, written evidence. So we can prevent any false allegation. يعني نمنع أي ادعاء كاذب. Not allowing people to make any false allegation. I don't want anyone to claim my car because it's my car. How can I prove this? I have a license. I have a document from the Ministry of Transportation saying that this car belongs to me. So that special form, when you buy a car, you have to have a special form. Keep it in your place. Keep it in your pocket. This document, it's your evidence. But if something is cheap, like a mobile phone, like glasses, it's not something worthy. You don't have to write it down. Something expensive has to be written down to prevent any false allegation. Okay, and I just want somebody to read this sentence for me. Yeah?
Contracts that do not meet the requirements are enforceable.
Unenforceable.
But are not necessarily void. However, a party unjustly enriched by an unenforceable contract may be subject to restitution.
That's fine. Let's say that we have a contract, A and B, offer and acceptance, and we have intention, and we have a consideration, the money and the item, commodities. But this contract was not in writing. But the law stated that you have to make it in writing. You have to make it in a special form. Then this contract is unenforceable. It's fine, it's okay. Legally, it is a contract. But it's unenforceable. Like, for example, like I have a car and I have the documents to prove that this is my car and you have the money and you want to buy it. I made an offer to sell my car, and you made an acceptance. You bought my car for £10,000. We had an offer and acceptance. I get your money, but I refuse to deliver the car. But we did not sign a piece of paper. We did not write a special form as requested by the Ministry of Transportation, saying that you have a form, you have to write it down, your name, your details and everything, and this form would be submitted to the Transportation Authority. Now that's you cannot force me to deliver the car. The contract we made was completely fine. Oh, you keep your money, I keep my car. I sold you the car. I made an offer and you made an acceptance and everything was fine. We have intention. But then I cannot commit myself. I cannot stop everything. No one can force me at all to deliver the car because we miss one of the conditions, which is formalities. Formalities. This contract was not in writing, was not in a special form. Then no one can force me. Even the same thing when you sell a house, a piece of land. When you sell something expensive, the contract will be intact, will be fine, will be legally okay. But you cannot enforce it. يعني عقد 100% 100% is fine, but فيش تطبيق. It's not enforceable. No one can force me to give you my car. Only one case, only in one situation, we have exceptional case. If we have this condition, then we can say that this contract, it can be forcible. We can force both parties. At this case, like for example here, one party has unjustly enriched by an enforceable contract, maybe subject to restitution here. We have some kind of restitution, في تعويض. One party, like I sold you, the same example, I have the car and you have the money. No, it's not. I was not. No, I'm awake, come on. No, it's just, no, the case is that, simple case. I made an offer. Everything was perfect. I made an offer and you made an acceptance. You paid the money and I've taken your money. Come on, listen to that. I have taken the money and I'm still using the car. I have both. I have the money and I have the car. The contract was fine, but you just keep claiming, I want the car. And I said no. I said no because I did not sign the contract with you and I'm not going to deliver the car. And I keep using the car and the money. Then what she can do, she can go to court and she can claim the car. Because I, here in this case, one party unjustly enriched. How? اغتنيت. I'm using the money, I'm using the car, and she's using nothing. It's not about the car only. It can be sometimes, it can be a transaction. And this transaction can cost millions, maybe hundreds of thousands of pounds. Like buying containers of electronics from China, bringing them to Palestine. These containers, 10 containers, and they cost like £500,000. You know, one person have the goods, the commodities, and have the money, and the second party have nothing. Then one party has enriched at the expense of the second person. Then we can have restitution, ta'wil. You have to pay. You would have by court. Even this is the only case. Otherwise, if both of them keeping the same things, like I keep my car and you keep your money, it's fine. It's a contract, but we cannot enforce it.
Everything has to be documented.
Everything has to be in documents. But what kind of documents do we need? The documents can be sometimes, the paper can be just a piece of paper. Any piece of paper. You write the names, the item, the price, location, anything. It can be written down in that piece of paper. This is a document, عقد, contract between both parties. But sometimes can be just here, like not the entire contract. Sometimes we can write half of our contract can be on a piece of paper, but the other half will be in oral. Especially that we have some contracts can be more than 200 pages, 300 pages. It's not, the contract can be sometimes half a page or 2 pages. Some contract between big businesses, they have hundreds of pages talking about little details. I have one of the cases, I've seen one of the cases in Gaza City here, in which a contractor has signed a contract with the UN to build 500-600 houses. About 500 or 600 houses. That contract was about 500 pages. It talks in details about everything. Commitments, the items, how to do it, the transformation of the money, the payments, in case of dispute, how they're going to do it, where all details between the two parties are documented. In some cases, you don't have to make 500 pages. What you can do, you can make 100 pages, 50 pages, 1 page the contract can be. But then the rest of it can be oral. We can understand it, especially in the market. In the market, merchants have a trust. We said trust is one of the basic elements of commercial law. Confidence between the parties and the speed. Then we don't have to type everything in a piece of paper, in a document. It's not. We can have some items, some terms can be in writings and some can be oral. Not for the entire contract to be in writing. In other cases, we can use notes, any note you like. You can just, not a contract, you can use any note. But this note has to indicate that both parties have made a contract. This note here have to include the following. Number 1, must be signed. Any note you would like to make, just a piece of paper from the Minister of whatever, Health, Economics, just you can sign it, and this note would include materials, terms, conditions, everything between the two sides. And for example, in addition to this, in England, sometimes they use the guarantees. When you buy something, an item from Sony, for example, to Toshiba, you don't have a contract. What you have only guarantee, a piece of paper saying this is a warranty. This warranty that this laptop have guarantee for 1 year, for 2 years. This is enough as an evidence, and this can be used alternative as a substitute for the contract. By signing the contract, once you sign it, it means that you have accepted everything. Even if you haven't been reading, once you sign the contract, this simply means you understand what you have in this contract. You accept it, even if you did not look at it. And I know that many people do not look at the content. Many of them. Mostly when you buy something online, just agree until you accept, final acceptance. When you finish, you find yourself, you sign a contract which contains more than 15 pages, and you did not look even at one single word. But then it means that you have understood and you have accepted everything. Did you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Good. In addition, you can use any document. Any document can be used as a substitute for the contract. It depends on both parties. If both of them have accepted a document, a note, a guarantee, a piece of paper, that would be fine. In addition to this, like in the UK, they use tickets, parking ticket here. Tickets issued at parking stations. When you have a car and you go to a station to park the car, you don't have in Gaza car parks. You don't have parking lots, car parks. In the car park, just you station your car in one of the spots, and then you go to pay the money, and this money you pay, it's the fees. You pay in the machine, and you take a ticket, small ticket, and you place the ticket in the window, from inside the window in the car. So this means that you have signed a contract, you have made a contract with a machine, and the machine is working on behalf an employee. The machine is working. It's a machine, but the machine has no mind, no hand. It means there's someone behind it. It's the Minister of Transport. It's the council, maybe the local council. What I'm saying is you have a piece of paper, which is a car park ticket. Car park ticket. This ticket itself, that ticket can be used as a substitute for the contract. There was a case, I think 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, last year I think, that someone was working in a car park for 20 years in the UK, I think in London. That man was working for nearly 20 years in a main car park. And this car park belongs to a public place. And he used to get the money every day. And after 20 years, they lost him. The manager of that park came and he could not find the man working in the car park. Then he went to the council, local council, asking them for another person to work in the car park. They were surprised after 20 years that this person has no name, no identification, nothing. No one knows anything about him. He just got the money and ran away. For 20 years he was collecting the money. And you know how much can be sometimes to collect money at car park. I'm not talking about 1 or 10. Sometimes can be hundreds of cars. And if you get from each car £5, the estimation was that he got maybe 15 to 20 million pounds. And it's a good pension planning, as it was said in the title, good pension planning. تقاعد جيد. Yes, well, you cannot make it yourself. It's not easy, come on. It just happens sometimes to some people. But this is illegal. Now we have to be legal. Yeah, so many people do illegal ways to get money, to be famous, and they do. Everything was made illegally, but they will not be protected by law. If they are caught, they will be in a prison. They will lose everything. Now there is something called uncertainty, incompleteness, uncertainty, incompleteness, and severance. If this was the contract here, you have terms. In each contract you have terms. Term 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at slide number 18 first. Then we come back to slide number 16. 18 first. Because slide 18, we have to understand the meaning of contractual terms. What does it mean, contractual terms? These are the terms. If this is the contract, terms can be title, the names, name, title, location, price, quality,
details,
and so on and so forth. You can have many items, and each one is called term. So these are contractual terms. You can add to this. Sometimes you can have thousands of terms. Sometimes you can have few, small number of terms. Now contractual terms can be defined as well any provision forming part of the contract. Any provision forming part of the contract is called contractual term. Some of them are stated in the contract. Some of them are stated expressly, as you can see that. And some of them are implicitly in the contract. They are not stated, they are not mentioned, but you can understand they are there in the contract. So you have expressed and implied terms. Some of the terms can be with less legal gravity. Some of them are not so important. Some of these terms can be at the end, of the contract. Some of them can be in the middle, on the top. All of them are really important. All terms are necessary. They're not equally important, but all of them are necessary to make the contract. All of them. Have to go back just now to the same slide number 16. As you can see that all these terms have to be clear. Names, title, price, quality, specifications, location, anything, time, everything has to be stated in the contract. Not everything, but the contract will include everything. But these terms can be, these are stated here, explicit. Some of them can be implicit. We have some cases in which we have uncertainty. Uncertainty. Some of the terms were not certain. Like the quality was not certain. What can we do? We're not sure what kind of a quality do we need. Do we need? What kind of a quality do we need? It was not clear. We have to explain the term, that term. I have to translate the words. We have to look at it again and again in order to find a way in which both of us can understand this term, because it was not certain. It's not sure about it. And sometimes some of these terms can be incomplete. Incomplete. It's not complete. We have a shortage. We mentioned something in the contract, but we found out later on that this term was not complete. In these cases, what shall we do? We have a contract signed between A and B, and this contract costs £2 million. £2 million. But it's lots of money. But then we find out that here, some items, some terms were not complete or not certain. What can I do? Like I bought a container of LCDs, 2,000 LCDs, costing a hell of money. Once I had the contract, was signed between me and the owner and the seller, the contract was fine, it looks fine, but later on I found out there was some problem with one term about the quality. The quality stated in the contract, but was not clear, was not complete. Then what can we do?
Maybe we can negotiate.
Okay.
Negotiation between the two parties, or if we fail to find or reach a compromise, we can finally return to law courts.
Okay. Yeah, anyone else? What do you think? If it was you, what can you do? Would you cancel the whole contract? Would you? Would you explain that point? Are you going to go to court straight away? No. What's the first step you're going to take? You have a contract signed between two of you. Two. But this contract was not clear. There's something have to be identified, explained. What shall I do? Can I complain to the court? No.
The other party, then ask him about the conditions and what it contains and explain it. But if it's not clear from him, he will complain to him.
Good. First attempt that both parties, A and B, have to accept, or have to make their attempt to explain that condition. If it's a condition, it has to be explained. If it's a term, it has to be identified. We have to look, how can we understand it? We may understand it later on. We can complete it if it's not complete, the term. Like, for example, the title. There was a mistake and it was not complete. We can complete it. Maybe the location. Location was not clear. In Gaza City, in Nablus, where exactly? It was not clear. It says in Palestine, but where exactly in Palestine? We have to complete. In Gaza City, Khan Yunis, somewhere else, we have to complete the shortage. If both parties have accepted that point later on, it's perfect. It's fine. Then we have no problem. Problem is, if we have a dispute, both parties could not reach an agreement. They could not. What can we do? A and B, both of them insisted that I'm the right person, and the second party said, well, I'm the right one. What can I do? We have to find a solution. We can go to court. The court. And the court would attempt to do the same thing. Would attempt here to give effect to commercial contracts, not to cancel it. Why should we cancel the contract if it costs money and this may affect the market? And we just keep holding it. Hold this contract and keep it and trying to make it effective as much as we can. Then if I was a judge in the court, I would bring both parties, negotiate with them until we find a solution for that problem. The judge would look at external standards. External standard, like for example, if the price was not a clear price, we would look in the market at similar items with the same quality and specifications, and we'll look these items, how much they cost in the market. Then the judge would take a decision based on that, based on the external standards and using his own discretion, using quality and just equity and justice. The judge here would look at all situations, and this is the example here. Courts may imply reasonable price. Both parties have signed a contract, but they did not agree on the price, or was not clear. There was a shortage. This point was incomplete. Then the judge can look at the standard level, would look at the reasonable price. الحد المتوسط يعني. Average, how much it costs in the market, unless if it's something unique. If something unique, we cannot take a decision easily. Like for example, second-hand goods. With second-hand goods, it depends how much it has been used. It depends how much it's valuable. It depends on the quality. It depends on many points. But if it's something new and we know it, we can take a decision. We can say this is the price in the market. And the same, the land. Sometimes a piece of land can cost 500 dinars a meter. And a second piece of land next to it can cost 200 dinars. Next to each other. One will be on the main street and the second one will be on the back street. And they're not the same. Then in such cases we have to look careful and we have to do our best. We're going to come to that point in which we see, in which sometimes we can cancel the whole contract. We can do. Look at these, each one of them term or clause. Clause is a term here. Can you read it? Can any one of you?
Uncertain or incomplete
clauses
is a contract plus all options in resolving its true meaning have failed.
Okay, if we have one of these clauses here, sentence was not clear, uncertain, incomplete, and we did our best, we could not solve it. We went to court, the judge cannot make a decision. What can we do? What's the next option would be? First option is that both parties would come together, explain it, analyze it, complete it. They go to court. Judge in the court cannot make a decision on this case. Then third option, the last option would be, are you sure? Are you going to cancel the contract for 1 point only, for 1 point, for one term? Excellent. We can exclude. We look. Can we here? We look at if all options in resolving its true meaning have failed, we can exclude. We'll call it severe. Yeah. Severability clause. What we can do, cut. Severe. But we have two types of terms. Two types. If, let's say for example, the quality. We have the problem, we have over the quality. We could not explain the type of quality. We could not agree on the quality wanted. And the quality, it's not a warranty, it's a condition. When you buy something, you have to look at the quality. It's something important. You buy a laptop, you buy a machine, you have to look at the quality. It is a condition. And if the quality is not the one you want, then you can cancel the whole contract. Now, you see that was the quality. We have incomplete term, which is the quality. it's uncertain. We could not identify exactly what we wanted exactly here. In this case, what we can do, severe, cancel it. We'll see. If we cancel this term and the rest of the contract can stay, it's fine. Problem is that in this case, once we cancel the quality, the contract itself cannot stand. We cannot keep it. We have to cancel the whole contract. If we severe cut one condition, it's a condition here, and the contract cannot stand without it, cannot stay without it, then the whole contract will be cancelled. The second case, if we cancel one item, one clause, if we severe, if we cut, like location. Sometimes, you know that location sometimes can be important. Sometimes location can be really important. You need it exactly in that place. Contract has to be delivered in one place. Sometimes location is not really important. Like, for example, delivering the goods to my place in Gaza City or in Deir al-Balah. Doesn't make much difference. No, having the item commodities, having the sugar or the cement delivered to my store in Gaza City, but I wanted them in Khan Yunis. Do you think this would affect the whole contract? No. What we can do here, we can cancel that location. We can cancel this point. We can severe it. And then once we severe it, what's left behind? The rest of the contract will be fine. Here, contract is standing without the clause in the eye of a reasonable person. This contract can stand without this clause in the eye of a reasonable person. So it will be fine, it will be legal, we can keep it, and we can just only cancel the location. This location here is the term. And this term we call a clause, a sentence. It's called severability clause here. This is what's called severability clause. Yani sentence can be severed, can be cut, can be cancelled. One item, one term, which can be excluded from the contract. This was in the exam a few times before. This question was in an exam before. It's a severability clause. You read it? Go on. You want to make it now? Yeah. Well, now it's fine for today, but now we can listen to the student. What's your name? What's your name? Haneen Abu Fool. She's going to make a presentation for 6-7 minutes. Yeah. And we still have 20 minutes.